Neo-psychoanalytic approach. So initially, maraming loyal kay Freud, maraming niniwala sa theories ni Freud, sa mga theories na kanyang pinroposed. For example, Alfred Adler and Carl Jung. They are colleagues before until they began to rebel against Freud and offered their own views of personality. Next naman sa kanila is si Karen Horney, which is not a colleague of Freud, but siya ay nag-aral ng mga theories ni Freud hanggang sa nagkaroon nga siya ng arguments regarding his proposed theories, kaya naman gumawa din siya ng kanyang theory. Neo-psychoanalytic theorists differ on one another or one number from another issue. But they are all equally opposed to Freud's and have lots of better or more optimistic and offered flattering images of human nature. They are opposed on Freud's primary motivators of human behavior, as well as his deterministic view. And neuropsychoanalytic theorists, sila yung isa sa mga proof na sa sobrang diverse ng field, in just a decade, maraming nagbago. In just a decade, maraming na-offer na different views of personality.
Jung's personality theory was influenced by his unhappy childhood in part. Jung was a son of a Protestant official, who developed a failing belief towards the power of religion. This created conflict between or within his family, especially with her mother, which soon was haunted by mental illness. Because of this, Jung left home and he studied and graduated in the University of Basel, and soon after worked as a staff in the Bulgozi Asylum in Switzerland. Now, his experiences as well as his fantasies and dreams expanded on Freud's libido concept, redefining it as a more generalized dynamic force. Jung argued that the future as well as the past shape one's personality. Jung believed that we are affected, or we are not just affected by our childhood experiences, but also who we aspire to be. Jung emphasized more on the unconscious more than Freud did. Next is psychic energy. Now, before we tackle on psychic energy, let's talk about the differences between the works of Jung and Freud. Freud his works focused more on sexual desires and sexuality, while Jung emphasized more on the unconscious, as said before. So Freud defined libido as a sexual energy, while Jung defined it in two ways. Number one, as a generalized, diffuse life energy, and number two, as a more specific energy that fuels the psyche. Now, Jung stated that a value is the amount of energy invested in an idea or feeling. Now, what does this connect to the psychic energy? We will find out. Let's begin. Now, the psychic energy, according to Carl Jung, it expresses itself in a form of actual or potential forces that which performs psychological work, which is perceiving, thinking, and feeling. Now, it has two principles. It works in three principles actually. Number one is the principles of opposites. Every aspect of psych has an opposite, and this opposition generates psychic energy. Now, we focus on its title, which is opposites, principles of opposites. It means it's just like heat versus cold, um, distance versus depth, and creation versus decay or destruction. Number two, principles of equivalence. Energy is never lost to the personality, but rather transferred from one part to another, meaning the psychic energy is not destroyed or not lost. Rather, it is redistributed to a new one. For example, you lost an interest, specifically, or sketching, for example. Um, the psychic energy that is invested in that uh, hobby will be redistributed to um, our unconscious, which is dreams, for example. Now, let's let's uh, let's talk about the next one, which is the principle of entropy. The personality has a tendency towards equilibrium, meaning, despite the differences, it the psychic energy must have an equal distribution towards the structure of personality. Next, we talk about the aspects of personality. Now, in the aspects of personality, we will talk about the ego. According to Jung, the ego is the center of consciousness and concerned with perception, thought, feeling, and memory, meaning it is our awareness and it is responsible for our actions in our conscious state, meaning our waking, everyday, normal activities. Now, the attitudes, uh, extroversion and introversion, Jung believed that the psychic energy can be redistributed, can be uh, channeled to these two types of attitudes. Number one, extroversion, an attitude of the psyche characterized by an orientation towards the external world and other people. Meaning, the extroversion is a type of people that is in tuned to the social world or the outside world. Meaning, this type of people are sociable. They're, let's just say, the life of the party. The next is the introversion, an attitude of the psyche characterized by an orientation towards one's own thoughts and feelings. Now, as we can see, the differences, the root word of each attitudes, exter, meaning external, while intro, internal, meaning it is more in tuned to one's own thought, meaning the internal perception of a person. Um, it is more focused on its own world. So this type of people are more focused on, are more quiet, so to speak, more quiet and more imaginative. They create their own world in their own thoughts. Now, next is psychological functions. Now, psychological functions have two types, which is the non-rational. This includes sensing and intuiting. Now, in the non-rational functions, and these are types of functions that cannot be explained, that is beyond reason, while rational includes thinking and feeling. Of course, when it comes to if non-rational is beyond reason, rational functions, thinking and feeling, are that can be explained or more in tuned to reasoning. Psychological types is the combination of the attitudes and the psychological functions. Now, number one, extroverted thinking, logical. These are types of people that are logical, objective, and dogmatic. Now, what does dogmatic mean? Means it's strongly facts and only facts. Number two, extroverted feeling, emotional, sensitive, sociable, more typically of women than men. Now, why? Women can express their emotional and sensitivity to others. That's why there is sociable in uh, in this chart. Now, next is extrovert sensing, outgoing, pleasure-seeking, adaptable. Now, for example, I must say is the young people. They're so outgoing and they seek pleasure and they're very adaptable of their environment. Now, number four is creative, able to motivate others and seize opportunities. This is extroverted intuiting. For example, artists, performers, ones that are from the music industry, they implement their creativity, and those creativity motivates people, and their performances seizes opportunities throughout their career, collaborating to other artists for their own improvement. Now we are done with the extroversion. We are going to continue to the introvert. Introverted thinking are more interested in ideas than in people. As we say in the introversion, they are more in tune with their own thoughts, with their own world. So introverted thinking are the types of people that are more focused on the ideal rather than the people itself. For example, when you love someone, you love your crush, you do not know who he is, but you are in love not by who he is, by his true self, but your idea of what he is. That is introverted thinking. Now, the next is introverted feeling. They are reserved, undemonstrative, yet capable of deep emotions. Now, these are type of people who are very, what we call, mysterious. Very mysterious. Ones that you cannot identify their emotions or their feelings towards you. But they are very in tuned or very they can handle their own emotions. Now, introverted sensing. Outwardly detached, meaning disconnected to the social world or the outside world. They express themselves in aesthetic pursuits, meaning these are type of people's more example is painters. The ones that they do not express themselves by demonstrating words, but by creativity. Now, introverted, last but not least, the introverted intuiting. They concern is more on the unconscious more than everyday reality. Now, these are the type of people that are, as they say, have their own world. They do not, they are not focused on the reality of things. Rather, what the idealistic things. These are the type of people that is more focused on the idealistic things.
I will discuss the first levels of psych, which is the personal unconscious. It is the reservoir of material that was once but has been forgotten or suppressed. So, ito yung mga memories or events na nare-recall natin agad or hirap nating maalala but nare-reach naman siya ng consciousness natin and for some reason, we suppress some events because it was disturbing or it is not important. Then, the content of the personal unconscious are called complexes. Complexes is a core or pattern of emotions, memories, perceptions, and wishes in the personal unconscious, organized around a common theme, such as power or status. So, ito po yung mga desires or wishes sa sarili natin na hindi tayo aware sa influences nito sa atin. Kung hindi, ibang tao nakaka-observe ng effect nito sa atin. For example, power or status. We might say that some people have a complex about power or status, meaning that they are busy with that theme to the point where it influences behavior. The next is, this is the most controversial and most distinctive concept of Carl Jung, the collective unconscious. Collective unconscious is the deepest level of the psyche, containing the accumulation of inherited experience of human and pre-human species. Ito yung mga compilation of inherited experience, minamana at pinapasa from one generation to the next as psychic potential. Jung believed that the collective unconscious is expressed through universal concept called archetypes. The major archetypes includes the persona. The word persona refers to a mask, meaning the public self or public face, which is ito yung sinusuot natin to present ourselves bilang isang tao na may unique personality. Next is the self. Self is the most comprehensive of all archetypes because lahat ng archetypes ay na-apply ng sarili natin. And then, lahat yun ay nagsasama-sama in the process of self-realization or yung individuation. And also, yung sarili natin ay siya din yung bumabalance sa lahat ng personality natin. Next is the anima and the animus. Anima is the feminine aspect of the male psyche, and the animus is the masculine aspect of the female psyche. For example, men that have feminine voice and women have a masculine traits such as assertiveness. And the last archetypes is shadow. This is our darkest and deepest part of ourselves. Sabi, our bad sides is inherited from our pre-human ancestors, which contains all the animal instinct. Next is the development of the personality. In childhood, kapag na-compare na ng isang bata yung sarili niya sa ibang tao, ay doon na nade-develop yung kanyang ego. And in this period, it is also the beginning of logical and verbal thinking of a child. And sa puberty to young adult naman, mas nade-develop yung demands in reality. Nagmamature, nag-i-increase yung mga activities nila. And focus sila and external. like on education, career, and family. And in this period, the conscious is dominant. And sa middle age, it is the period of transition, which is your personality is shift from external to internal. Next naman is yung individuation. Individuation is a condition of psychological health, or ito yung our emotions, behavior, and social abilities that resulting from the integration of all conscious and unconscious facets of the personality. There are several steps through which we must proceed before we can reach Jung's ideal of self-fulfillment. One is the first is confront the unconscious. Dito, yung way ng pag-express nila sa sarili ay pagpipaint o pagiging creative sa pagsulat, dahil they follow their fantasies, or they must listen to their dreams. Kaya ganun nila na-express yung self nila is because of their dreams, or mga fantasies nila, mga imaginations nila, doon nila kinukuha. And they must let themselves be guided not by their rational thinking that drove them before, but by the follow of the unconscious. The second one is accept our dark side and accept our anima and animus. For accepting our dark sides, hayaan natin na ma-distract. The second one is accept our dark sides and accept our anima and animus. For accepting our dark sides, yung hayaan daw natin na ma-distract tayo ng shadow natin. We must continually strive to know our shadow that must change as part of the process of learning to know ourselves. We have a greater awareness of both destructive and constructive aspect of the shadow. Shadow will give a deeper and fuller dimensions. And the last one is transcend. It is a tendency toward unity or wholeness in the personality. Ito yung mga kailangan nating mampasan to acknowledge the self-fulfillment. In assessment in Jung's theory, his methods of investigation includes word association test. This is the oldest method in which the subject is asked to respond to some stimulus words with first words that comes to his mind. This test is used to elicit an emotional reaction of the patient. The next method of investigation of Carl Jung is dream analysis. Yung purpose naman dito ni Carl Jung ay to uncover elements from personal and collective unconscious to perceive the process of self-realization. And the last is the Myers-Briggs types indicators. This is the most popular and most frequently used personality test. May possibility kasi na makakuha ka ng trabaho or promotions if you will take this test. Research on Jung's theory. Jung has a broader aspect on his theory because his theory have resisted scientific validation, and his work has had a significant impact, especially on theories of personality and other variety of fields.